Okay, I think I'm live. Okay. So we'll give it just another minute and then I'll get going. So today I'm really excited. We're going to talk about the role of a visionary and my little insight into my crazy brain and how it works and try to inspire the other visionaries out there if you're feeling tired or just can't get that spark back, or if you want just another person to relate with you, here I am, because I'm very much a visionary. Or if you're not a visionary and you don't see me on Facebook, are you sure? Are you on my public profile, Julia? Here, I can check. Oh wait, my phone's on Instagram. Let me check on here. Oh no, I see it. We're good. Okay, now I can see me talking over there, so that's a little creepy. I'm gonna go turn it off for a second. All right, so awesome. No, I see it on there. So I think we're good. Okay, cool. All right, so it's 7 o'clock. I'm gonna go ahead and just get started. This will be recorded, so you can always watch it again. We'll post it into the feeds. First off, I just wanted to thank everybody for who's on here to be live with me. This is my first time ever, so you will get first seats if you front seats if you see me flop. So we'll for the first one I'll get better. So anyways, just a little bit about me. So I'm the chief visionary of a company called The Center. I've literally spent over a decade working with entrepreneurs and executives on how to make business simple. And so I'm just really developed a passion for that. And so I'm just really excited about that. About 5 years ago, we went 100% virtual, and that was the cool. I think we're good. We're live both. Awesome. All right. So about 5 years ago, we went 100% virtual, and it's been the best thing ever. I'm able to be the CEO that I need to be the mom that I need to be, and I can just run the company in a virtual way and be able to manage all the things that go on. And we're able to recruit much better teams because we now have the whole US to work with. We're able to work with people that are looking for that work-life balance and being able to not have to commute. And we're recently getting into the military spouse arena where we can really help out spouses with the military. And then also we want to get more on a 24-hour work shift, and so we'll be able to work with military spouses in other time zones. So it's kind of our first run at going 24 hours. So that's kind of a little bit about me. I did want to say one thing, because the company we built is 100% virtual. I know there's a lot of going around with coronavirus where people aren't able to go to work or things get called off. And so we're trying to figure out a way that we can maybe give back to help people that maybe want to look at going virtual for their company, or just want to learn more about it, or maybe have some ideas on how we can give back and help. We have such an amazing culture, and we have just an amazing team. And a lot of people will ask, what the downsides are of being virtual. And like I said, other than somebody not there to help me get my Facebook Live up, because I feel a little debilitated as a visionary because they do so much for me now. But I just really feel like we have so much dialed in as far as the culture and our way of communicating. So if we can in some way give back to help inspire other companies to go virtual, whether that's temporary or permanent, just direct message me, and I would love your feedback and would love to figure out how we can give back in some way for that, so that we can keep the economy strong. And it just, I just realized that, man, we don't have to worry about so many things being virtual with the coronavirus, and that's just been such a blessing for us, but we want to figure out how to help other people that have been impacted by that. So let's see. I normally just get rambling, so I'm trying to keep a little more focused. So I have a little bit of an outline. So I wanted to talk about, as I mentioned before, like I get a little debilitated when I have to do things because I have such an amazing team that literally takes so much off my plate. And as a visionary, we have to get to that thing. That's a good place to be when you're like, I don't know how to do this. Can somebody help? And I remember I was watching a podcast by Russell Brunson once, and he said, it's not how you do it, it's who does it. And I think that we need to get in that mindset more as a visionary. And so that's so important. Recently, a friend of mine was talking about how you need to be okay with your employees just being 80% as good as you. And just, you know, if it's not perfect, it's fine. At least they're not, at least it's not on your plate. And while I agree that you need to be okay with if your employees aren't doing as much as you, I'll also say there's kind of a caveat to that. The more I've empowered my team and the more I've let them kind of, you know, pick up the balls I've dropped and run with it, because they're more how and what minded versus why minded, which I'll go into that in a little more detail. They actually are better than me. Like, they're better at process. They're better at finding solutions to things and figuring out how to do the stuff and doing the nitty gritty details. And so it's just, I realize how important it is to have a really great team and just a really good support to keep you out of the whirlwind and doing what you need to do. So with that being said, recently we went and did a ranking of all of our employees in the company. They probably don't know this, so this is the first time they'll probably hear about it. But we ranked them all A, B, and C players. And I got this list of qualities of an A player, qualities of a B player, and qualities of a C player. And we ranked all of the employees, and we gave them pluses and minuses, we had this list that kind of shows qualities of A, B, and C, and Jason with BBSI actually gave us that list, so I'll have to ask him and see if we can post it in here for you guys to have access to it. But it was really empowering to know the types of people that you need to have associated with you, whether that's through outsourcing or whether it's through your own internal team. But as a visionary, like, it's our job to make sure we have really good how people that can understand our vision and then implement it out. And so, oh yeah, Julia, you are an A player. You're still here, so no. And so the A players are so important, especially for the how people, the people that are going to take your vision and run with it. Like, you have to have solid A players. I think about all my how players in my company, and they are solid A players. I can fully trust them. They would do better job than I would ever do with process and implementing it. And so you have to have A players on your team. And then B players, I believe you need people to do the work. You need people that are comfortable just, I forgot to get the list, so I'm having a hard time coming up with some ideas of what the A and the B and the C are, but I'll post that list in here. And oh, we got Amy on there. Yeah, Amy, you're an A player too. So I got some people on my team here, so this is awesome. So with the A and the B players, like, for the what type people, the people that are going to do the work and get the tasks and check them off the list, like, it's okay having A and B players in there. But the C players are a lot more of the drama people, the people that will spread toxicity in your company. And I'm a firm believer that just one person can sour your entire team. I'm a firm believer of that because I've experienced it. I've had full teams I've had to fire before, except for just a couple people. And it is the worst thing to ever go through in your life. But it is also empowering from the standpoint of you realize how an unhealthy culture and an unhealthy team will suck all of the energy out of you, especially as a visionary. And so the reason why I say that is, as a visionary, it's so important to safeguard our mind and our emotions and making sure that we have a clear brain. And so that, like, is a perfect segue into a story I wanted to tell about my, what did I call it? Oh, I said the story of me as dying brain. So that's what I'm going to tell you. So after I got out of the whirlwind, so I have this amazing team that started taking things off my plate. They were protecting my time. And oh, we got Elena on here too. So yay, this is awesome. Okay, I'm such an empathetic speaker. So if I have other people on, this is way better. And so even if it's just people from my company right now, I'm so excited about that. And then we'll just keep building a following. So this is really cool. So after I was getting out of the whirlwind and I had and my team was protecting my time and just realizing that I needed to focus on going up and out, you know, getting the vision out, and they're going to focus down and in and focus on the team and the culture and getting the day-to-day done. I realized getting out of there, it was, oh, even Ashley's on. Awesome. So Ashley writes a lot of my copy, and she loves my dying brain story. So I equate it to, after I got out of the whirlwind, I was like, oh my goodness, what is wrong with me? I felt almost like a drug addict in a way, is almost the perfect way to explain it. I've never been a drug abuser, but I can imagine it's probably similar where, you know, you feel like you're detoxing from, you know, this high that you've always been on. And as an entrepreneur, if you're in the whirlwind, you're on this high. And for 14 years was in the whirlwind. And so I literally was going against my grain as a visionary and just down in the trenches, getting work done. And I'm unique that I can do work really well. I can do details really well. My background's actually in accounting and finance, ironically enough, but like I really hate accounting now. And I'm Amy, I'm glad you're here to help the team with the accounting, because while I know and I'm grateful for the knowledge, I don't want to do the details anymore. And so after getting out of the whirlwind, I just realized I had to go through this process to really figure out how to just figure out who I was again and figure out what my role as a visionary was. And so I just have had a lot of time to just ponder and reflect and really think about what is my job as a visionary to my team, to the clients, to the world, and just making sure that I live up to my expectation for my role and making sure that I'm doing what I should be doing. And so it just was so clear to me that I should have never been in the whirlwind as long as I was. But now that I was out, I realized it's my job to understand a clearer vision of what my why is. What is the reason why I'm doing this business? And then what is my cause? What is the reason? What is the thing that I'm for, that I want to make a difference and an impact in the world? And then inspiring those on my team and the clients that are there and to be a part of that. And so it's just been a very interesting journey. And the big epiphany I had as far as the role goes is I've been on kind of this kick of studying about like our 4 legitimate needs as people. And Amy says, I hate accounting now. So I'm glad you love it. So anyways, but I just realized that one of the things you'll find with me is I'm like a squirrel, and I'll look at comments and I forget what I talk about, and it's the worst thing. So I'll have to rely on you guys when I get off track, because what was I talking about? This is the this is the test. My team knows we do this Moments with Mia, where once a month I talk, and then I'll start reading comments and I completely forget. So anyways, come on. What was I talking about? I'll go to my notes here. Oh, 4 legitimate needs. There we go. Okay, so I was been on this kick about learning the 4 legitimate needs. And if you don't know what those are, it's the physical needs that we all have as people. Obviously, some of those are obviously life. Like we need food, water, shelter, those kind of things to preserve our life. But there's other physical needs as far as our physical health that we need to do that's very important. And so we have physical, we have intellectual or knowledge is another one. We have emotional, and then we have spiritual. And so I was going for a walk the other day, and I was just had a time to reflect on these 4 legitimate needs. And I realized like that is our role as a visionary. Like we have to make sure that all of those are in balance. And I realized like when I was in the whirlwind, because I am a mom of 7 kids and I'm a CEO of this company, and it's growing fast and things are just, crazy in my life. Like I sacrificed the gym, I sacrificed the physical side, because something had to give somewhere. And now that I'm in this visionary role, I started realizing how much I have to take care of my physical self for my brain more than anything. I have to keep my brain in tip-top shape to get the inspiration, the vision, and the knowledge that I need. And so I've been working really hard recently on the physical side and making sure that I'm nourishing myself the way I need to nourish myself. And so that's the physical. And then the intellectual and the knowledge, that is one where I've gotten really good recently. I love to listen to podcasts. I love to read books. I just love to learn. But I will say it wasn't always that way. When I was after I got done with college, I was never really taught that knowledge was a lifelong thing. I had the thought, once you're done with college, I'm done learning. And it literally took me a decade to start really reading to the level that I am. And I would always like research for things for my job or for clients that needed to take place. But I just realized that I needed that knowledge is a lifelong thing, and the more knowledge we have, the more we'll have the ability to execute, and the more wisdom we'll have. And as a CEO, or as a chief visionary, it's our job to see the big picture and the strategy and look for new opportunities and new ways to do things. And so we have to have all that big picture knowledge. So I'm just reading different books and different angles and trying to stay up and on top of it. And so that's why the intellectual piece is so important as our role as a visionary. And then the third role is, the emotional, or another kind of word that I've heard is social. And that's something that I think we're so connected anymore. We have all this social media and all these ways to plug into each other, yet we have more depression and more addiction than we've ever had. And so we are emotional beings. We long for that deep connection. And that's why I'm actually really enjoying these Facebook Lives, because I can see all your comments, and I just need that emotional connection when I speak with people. And as entrepreneurs and visionaries, it's lonely at the top, and we don't always get that emotional connection. Our family and friends might not always understand. Well, they usually don't. Just an example, like my stepdad will align really well from a vision perspective, but then my husband and my mom will like walk out of the room because they're just not geared with the same vision. And so typically, your family and friends don't quite understand what you're going through as a business owner. And so, and then as your employees or your colleagues, like there's only so much that you can share with them. There's it's kind of like the airline pilot to the people in the plane. Like the pilot doesn't have to tell about I dodged this bird, or I did this. Like they just need to focus on getting you there safely. Obviously, if the plane's going down, you probably want to let everybody know, but they don't need to know every little thing, so that they can stay focused on doing work, and I can stay focused on doing the vision. And so with that being said, I'm just a true believer in masterminds and finding different mentors and different ways to emotionally connect with people. And so that's something I've recently started to create, I'm in the process of creating masterminds to help get entrepreneurs together. And I'm just a firm believer that that's such a good way to emotionally connect. And if you're a visionary that's like, I don't have time for those kind of things, like my thing is like, you don't have time not to do those things. Like get yourself out of the whirlwind. But if you don't have the time for those things, then that means that you're probably in the whirlwind and you're doing the wrong things. Because as a visionary, like it's so important to be with like-minded entrepreneurs that can give you advice and that can learn from you. And so I'm just a big believer in making sure we have those deep emotional connections, and then getting rid of the people in your life that are toxic to you, that are just going to bring you down. I can't, because I'm such an empathetic person, I have to connect with people on an energetic, like with energy and on a spiritual level. It's like I cannot have those types of people in my life, and it's not easy, especially when it's family and things like that. And so I've just learned to, it gets easier, or I don't know if easier is a better word, maybe it gets simpler, but so, and then the fourth one is the spiritual, and I think a lot of times people discount this one. They kind of shrug it off as a religious thing, but I think this is probably the most important one as a visionary to do. It really is the one that kind of connects all the other three together. And yeah, for sure, Amy, get rid of those toxic people. You don't need them in your life. Okay, so as in the spiritual aspect, it's so important. That is the one where you have to actually be able to think and to self-reflect and to give yourself time. Like if your days are jam-packed with meetings and you're just in the hustle and bustle, like you're not going to be able to get the inspiration you need to lead your company in the way it needs to go. I often find most of my inspiration at 2:00 in the morning. I'll wake up, I'll have all these ideas, I'm writing them down. And so it's like, my husband knows that if I have to sleep until 7, it's probably because I was up for 2 or 3 hours writing things down. And so just be flexible as a visionary, like have your routines, but routines aren't always everything as a visionary. Be willing to switch things up as far as your day-to-day schedule, as far as where you're going. Russell Brunson, again, I listen to his podcast and he obviously does a great job, but in his podcast, he had learned about routine and how routine is great, but the way our brain works is it compartmentalizes all the things that are the same. So he gave the reference of, if you have a mastermind in the same two places, if they're both in Puerto Rico, your brain will compartmentalize them and probably only remember the first mastermind trip you went to in Puerto Rico, and you'll throw out the second one. And I thought, like, that's such a cool way to think about, like, why we need to shake things up and why we need to do different trips and things in our lives. And those are the memories that we'll remember. And so and I'm probably the worst at this. And so I'm really trying to but I love change too. So it's one of those things I'm trying to make sure I'm flexible and not so rigid with my schedule. And so in the spiritual side, what that is really about is connecting your mind and your heart together. And oftentimes in business, we think, oh, we make decisions with our mind and that's it. Like, give me the facts and you make decisions. But I can't tell you how many times in my business where something that logically didn't make sense, the numbers didn't make sense, but it felt like the right thing to do. I went with it, and Tony Robbins recently showed this diagram of the EEG and the EKG, the diagrams for your heart and your mind, and how when your heart and mind are in alignment, literally the graphs are on top of each other. And then when your heart and mind are not in alignment, they're literally opposite of each other. And I thought that was such a true testament of why, as a visionary, we have to keep the two connected and be willing to make decisions that don't always make sense. And then when you go forward with your gut and you go forward and make that decision, and then you just go forward with faith and say, okay, here it is. Here's what I need to do. So when a company's small, that's really easy to do, because as a visionary, you're probably making most of the decisions. And when you're small, you're still inspiring the team and you're making a lot of decisions off that gut, that heart and the mind. But as you get bigger, you have to now figure out how to get your vision to your whole team and your whole culture and getting them to understand that. And so that's where understanding what your why is of your company, the reason why you're doing your company, and then understanding what your core values are so important. Because what's going to happen is when people know what the reason why you're in business and what your cause is that the movement you're trying to create to get out to the world, and they know the core values that align with it, then every decision they can make, they can put it to that test and then go forward with faith that that's what needs to happen because it aligns with all of those things. And so that's why your vision and your core values are so critical. And just because I love our core values so much, I'm just going to list them really fast. So we recently came up with them, and they need to be action oriented. Like, so many times you hear of core values that are like honesty or integrity, and those don't really inspire anybody. And what do those really mean? What is the I don't know, the rule of thumb if for honesty, like, how do you know if somebody's honest? And so I'll just list our 4. So the first one is get it done. And luckily I have people on my team, so if I forget one, they'll fill me in. So the first one is get it done. Oh, no, it's not get it done. Do the right thing. So the first one's do the right thing. And the reason why I love that is because it's ambiguous. It's not going to, so many times, like, you know, people want to just be told what to do and say, this is how you do it and what you do, and that's it. And they're not able to really understand, put it to all the tests and make decisions. And so I love that it's somewhat ambiguous, where again, you have to understand the why of the company, the core values of the company, connect your heart and your mind together, and then make a choice and make a decision and go. And so that's why I love do the right thing. And then the second one is embrace the uncomfortable. And a lot of people struggle with this one because as humans, we want to stay in our comfort zone and not change. But the only way to grow is to change and is to embrace those uncomfortable spots. And especially as a visionary and as an entrepreneur, like, you have to be willing to embrace the uncomfortable. Can't tell you how many times that, you know, I've had to get out of my comfort zone to grow. And here I am doing my live for the first time. This isn't comfortable, but I love it. This is awesome. And so a lot of times, a lot of the experts will talk about only do what your strengths are and just focus on those. And I disagree with that. I think my greatest strengths are actually my weaknesses. I had a lot of fear, over the last probably 10 years ago, and probably up to like 5 years ago, and it debilitated me on a personal level and often in a business level, and I knew I needed to work through it, and it got to a point where now I feel like, fear is, I'll get anxious and nervous or like doing these things. I think that's all normal things. I don't get debilitated. Like, I don't fear of, what if, I don't know, I can't do this, or I guess we all kind of have that to a degree, but like, I don't have the fear that debilitates me where I can't get up or I can't leave the house or things like that. And so I just think it's so important to embrace the uncomfortable and realize that sometimes what's your weakness could actually be what you're called to do as your strength. So again, listen to your heart and mind and say, okay, what is it that I feel called to do? and make that decision. So I think these are actually really good for visionaries too. So I'm actually glad I'm going through them. And so the third one is get it done. And this one is a result of the growth of my company. And as a visionary, when you're small, it's like, it's easy to just inspire people, and then people just keep all the knowledge in their head of what to do. So when you're working on client stuff, it's like, you don't need a lot of process. And because I'm a visionary, I'm not the best with process. Like I can go so low, and then I need somebody else to take it and get down into the details. And so I wasn't the best at growing the process side of the company. And so, but then as we grew, we actually got to a point where a client was scaling really fast, and then it just, a whole bunch of things just went in the wrong direction, and it just crumbled us, where I realized we needed more process. And so we started hiring process-minded people and process engineers, and we started documenting everything, and it was just a really good ride. But then it got to where it swung too far on the other side, where people were debilitated because they're like, we can't do anything because there's not a process. And like, what people need to realize is like, process is actually, by actually doing it, you're going to create the process. And sometimes you can't refine the process until you just start and do it. And so that's how the Get It Done was born, is that we need to bring it back to the center where you still get the job done, you still want to get process going, but there has to be a balance. And just as a visionary, like we have to be able to make sure that we have people to accomplish the vision and get it done. So that's that one. And the fourth one was we actually just had those three for about a week, and then we realized we were missing a core one that was very necessary. And this was actually created from the team, and seeing the team actually do this. When we went through kind of a difficult restructuring in our company, we were seeing that everybody was building everybody up, and I realized that if we as leaders had to do all the building up, like we wouldn't have the culture that we have. And so the fourth one is building people up, and I think that's ultimately the whole goal of why we're in business. Like, we're here to serve and to help make an impact on other people's lives and improve the human experience. And so I just am such a firm believer of that. Like, if we're not doing serving authentically and really finding a way to make that impact, like, what's the point? So those are our core 4 values, and I'm really excited about those. So let's see. I talked about the 4 legitimate needs. This one's a good one. So I got so many stories. So I want to talk to you about to-do lists and how time management for visionaries needs to get thrown out the window. Like, we need a whole different set. Like, if you're going and researching time management stuff on how to manage your to-do list better or accomplish everything on it, you need to stop, because as visionaries, it's a whole different ballgame. The whole goal is to keep as little on your to-do list as possible, so that you can do the visionary stuff and strategize and do strategic thinking and connect with people and create content. And so to give you a story, this is a good one. So for about 2 years of my life, I thought, if I just work 16 hours a day and work as hard as I can, I will eventually get to the bottom of my to-do list. So I was so good. Every time I got an email in, I would add it to my Trello board that I had, and my to-do list. Every time somebody wanted me to do something, I would add it there, and I'd prioritize it, and I had everything that I ever needed to do on there. So I'm like, if I just get this done, then I will be freed up, I will be out of the whirlwind, and I can finally be the visionary that I need to be. So I did that for 2 years. I wasted 2 years of my life doing that. I never, ever got to the bottom of that to-do list. As a visionary, you will always have more to do than you can accomplish in a day. You will always. You get 1 off, you get 4 more. So the issue is you got to start letting balls drop. And that is a hard thing to do as a visionary. And you're going to say, why do you let the balls drop? And you're like, because you need a team to pick them up for you. And so when sadly, this was probably only 7-8 months ago, I realized that I needed to let the balls drop. And as a visionary, we have this gift of being able to see all the details. We have the vision in our brain, and we can see all of the details. And that is wonderful, because we can have the bird's eye view of the company, know the direction it needs to go, make changes, innovations, different things. It's a wonderful thing, but it also comes with its downfall. And that is that we can spot everything that would go wrong in the company before people even realize it. And so you can catch all those balls, and you can save them all, and you can make and you're on fire because you're like, oh, I see them, I'm fixing everything, and oh, before this client got offended, or before this client, we dropped the ball with this client, I caught it, and before you know it, you're doing everything in the business. And so and it's not even from a control perspective necessarily because we're a control freak. It's just that we have this gift of being able to see it all. And so the best thing I ever did for my company was to let the balls drop. And that is the hardest thing I probably have ever had to do in my life. That's like saying a lot, because it's like my whole goal is I want to make business simple for entrepreneurs. I want them to make their lives easier. And I knew that I had clients that weren't happy, and I knew it was coming too. And that is the hardest thing, to have that feeling. And so, but what happened was amazing. So yeah, for a while it's really bad, and you have to be okay with that. You have to okay with things not being perfect, but you need to get to a point of excellence. And excellence is not going to happen overnight, but there's this journey to excellence that will happen. And it gets even cooler because your team will actually start to pick up those balls, and they'll start to be empowered by it. And then they will start to do better than you could ever have imagined they could do, and way better than you could ever do. And so it's just a really cool place to be. And as a visionary, we have to be okay with that. Once I had a client that, he's no longer a client, as you'll see why, but he was served an amazing purpose for when he was here. But he literally in one of the meetings says, I demand perfection. I thought, man, that's going to be tough, because, perfection to me is defined differently than perfection to you. And so it's like, we can achieve excellence, but we can't achieve perfection. And I thought, this guy will never be, he always will be a finite thinker. He will always think that it's, he will never get bigger than, and he will never be able to make a bigger impact because he's thinking that in order to make the biggest impact and serve the most, things have to be perfect. So the sooner we realize that it's about not being perfect, about embracing our weaknesses, about realizing, I'll tell this to clients straight up too, like, we won't be perfect, but we care, and we're going to get it right. And we're going to figure out how to serve you better. And so I'm just such a firm believer in, just as visionaries, you got to let go a little bit, and you got to let your team make that happen. And so if you're not really sure how to build a team, or you want to figure out how to outsource a team, you can direct message me. Like, I've literally sweat and tears building a concept around that. So I would love to show you how I've built a team, and how you can kind of embrace that team that we've built. Because really we have this phrase where what we do for us, we do for you. And we really are about just finding ways to simplify entrepreneurship, and we want to walk the walk. And so we implement what we do for clients for us. So if you want to know more about that, just direct message me. So simplicity. So as you know, I talk a lot about how to make business simple. So first off, I probably have the most complex brain, which kind of seems contrary to having a business about making things simple. And but somebody made the most awesome quote that made me feel so much better, because let me see if I can find it. She goes, so you need to have a deep understanding in order to state something simply. And so the reason why I love that is because as visionaries, again, we can see all the details. We have this ability to make complexity. We are emotional, we're driven, we're strategic, we can see the big picture, we can see all the elements, but that also comes with complexity. So I thought, because I see everything in businesses and all the things that go on and what entrepreneurs need, I now have the ability to pull all that together and to make it simple. And it's really cool because for a long time I've been trying to make a framework and some type of course to help guide entrepreneurs to help them get out of it. And I've been struggling, but then like literally about 2 weeks ago, I had this huge aha moment where all of a sudden I created this framework and this acronym that literally pulled all my knowledge from 14 years and bundled it into this simple way. And I thought, as visionaries, we need to think in those terms. There's things like the rule of three, or using frameworks, or creating acronyms, or, the more you can take all of your knowledge and make them into simple formats where clients can understand it and your team can understand it, like, it's so much better. And so that's kind of what I've been working on is ways to make that process simpler for companies. And so on that note, like, I just think we have to continue to look to simplify. And I think it starts with our message. Understand your why and understand why you're doing it and have a very clear sense of that. And that way your team can understand it, and then it creates a level of simplicity for that. One of the frameworks I built was around the concept of the mastery of business. There's 3 components of business that I feel like are important in order to master business. I actually created a website with these 3 things a long time ago, and then I recently heard Tony Robbins mention the same thing. I was so excited because he says there's 2 things that are critical to business, and I had 3, and so his two were the same as my 2, but I have a third one. So the first one is innovation, and the way he defined it, and I'm going to expand on his definition a little bit, but it's always just looking for ways to better serve your customers. And I thought, I love that definition of innovation, because so many people will argue about what innovation means. And I thought, if really that's all, whether it's technology, whether it's process, whatever the reason, whatever we're innovating, it's all for serving our customers better. But I want to expand that to employees and partners. I just believe that the more we can serve our employees and our customers and our partners, the better it all works. And I know some people will be like, well, serve your customers first. That's what's most important. But I went through a time where, because of the model of our business, I had to staff employees before I could have customers. And so I can tell you it's hard to keep employee morale if you don't have enough customers. And so as great as our employee engagement was and our employee stuff, it didn't mean anything if we didn't have customers to help it. And so I just believe it's so important to have both, serve your customers, serve your employees, serve your partners. And so that's kind of my definition of innovation. So, and so for mastering business, we have to understand that we have to put the customer first, put the employees first, and put our partners first above all else. And how can we serve them the most? And then the second component of mastering business is marketing. And marketing is really just a way to get your message out to your customers. And if you have this best kept secret, what's the point, right? And so that's the third, is marketing. And there's a great quote that, like, marketing is literally all, I'm going to butcher it, but marketing is like really the end all be all of business, and every other function, whether it be ops, accounting, technology, anything like that, is just to support the marketing function. And so I thought, like, it's so important to understand the concept of marketing and the role that it plays. And so the third element I'm going to add is simplicity, because you might have all this stuff, but if you're not able to get your message clear and get your employees to get behind it, your clients to get behind it, what's the point of that? And I had, I had some concepts of simplicity. Let's see if we can find it. Okay, I don't see it, but that's okay. So it's just so important to have that concept of simplicity. So let's see. I talked about my dying brain. I talked about throwing out time management, keeping business simple and the importance of that. And then, I will mention, so if you need help with how you're to start your why, we are creating a course on that, but it's in the process of being built. So if you want that detail, you can direct message me. But first and foremost, read the book, Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And then he also wrote a book called The Infinite Game. And they're both, The Infinite Game is really about, honestly, he talks about just visionaries and your role as that. And so those are both so critical to making sure that you have a vision. And if you don't feel passionate, this book will help you figure out, again, this is why I started this business, or, this is why I need to do this. There's also a 7 levels deep exercise you can do, which I have a worksheet on that I can give you as well. But if you go and you say, okay, this is important to me because I want people to be true to their purpose. That was my initial why of why I did what I did, is I felt called to do this business, even though I'm a mom of 7 children and I'm doing all this stuff. I feel called to do this. So I'm living true to my purpose, and I want to inspire other people to be true to theirs. And so then I went down the 7 levels deep exercise, and I realized one of the true reasons why I'm doing this business is to better unify families, communities, and the world. And I thought, what's cool is entrepreneurship has the way of doing this. As entrepreneurs, we have the opportunity to treat our clients well, treat our employees well, serve them better, impact the lives of our employees, and then they'll impact their families because now they have more time, or they have a better work they feel better at work and they're less stressed, and then they now have more energy and time to serve in their community, and then that impacts the world. And so I believe that entrepreneurship is the grassroots way to make that happen. And so I think this is a great way to just kind of close this live, is just talking about, just kind of reiterating my purpose and my why. So my whole goal is to improve the human experience, and through people being true to their purpose, by them becoming their best selves, because that is going to make an impact as entrepreneurs and executives, and we are going to be able to make an impact on the world if we know what our why is, and why we're doing it, and what our cause is to bring out to the world. And so I just want to find ways to simplify entrepreneurship so they have more time and resources to give to their core product, to give to their employees, to do all of those things. And so I'm just truly passionate about helping and serving you, and I would love to find out new ways that I can serve you. And if you have any questions about being virtual or growing teams, or how to get passionate again about your business, direct message me. I will read them all. I just am so passionate about what I'm doing, and I just feel like innovation is squashed anymore. Like, we're not taught to think. We're taught to be multitaskers, and the more that we become multitaskers in this world, the less we will become those creative creatures that we were meant to be. And so use technology to keep us creative. Like, that's really my goal. Is I love technology. I love finding ways to use technology, and it's really just to keep us creative. So that being said, I think hopefully I covered the role of a visionary well. I'm probably about as visionary as you can get. It probably drives my team a little crazy sometimes, but maybe it inspires them too. So hopefully both. But they're always like, oh, Mia just gave us another thing to do because I had some thought or vision. So, I really love entrepreneurship, and I'm grateful. Let's see, how do I tell how many people? We got some people joining. Allison's on here. Oh, Caitlin's on here. Clayton, it's good seeing you guys all. So cool. This was really good. So that's all I have for today. I love visionaries. Keep it up. Keep doing what you're doing. I call it grit and grace. Keep working hard, and then the grace will happen, and it'll help make up the difference of when you don't have anything left to give. And so that being said, thank you. I know it's evening. Go spend some time with your family. Go have some dinner. But thanks again for your time, everyone. We'll see ya. Bye.